blindingly obvious that I'm sure it won't have escaped the right honourable gentleman, who is a very clever fellow, for a moment. Yes, indeed. Point of order, Dr. Caroline Johnson.
Some of my constituents have written to me today concerned that the reason that the vote has not been allowed is because the result would go in the government's favour. Now, I'm sure that I've heard that you've given reason for it. But on Saturday, the amendment was brought forward by a right honourable member, member for West Dorset. He has said himself that were the bill to be brought forward, the vote to be brought forward now, that he would not amend it again, and that he would support the government's legislation to come forward. So is there not a sign that actually something has changed since Saturday?
The answer to that, I don't recall every single word that the right honourable gentleman member for West Dorset has said, though I am familiar with the thrust of his argumentation on these matters. It is a matter of record that the right honourable gentleman member for West Dorset has voted for the withdrawal agreement 3 times, and it is a matter of record that he has expressed support for the government's latest deal with the European Union, causing him, therefore, to be inclined to vote for the legislation. The right honourable gentleman can vote for the legislation if he wishes, and I have every expectation on the strength of what he said that he will do so. But the right honourable gentleman doesn't determine what the judgment is about the same question convention. I mean, he could if he were the Speaker of the House, and if the honourable lady is going to make a belated attempt to persuade the right honourable gentleman to abandon his retirement plans and to seek election to the chair, she may have success with him or she may not. I don't know. He doesn't seem to be offering me any encouragement in that matter. But I've made the judgment I've made, and I think it's the right judgment to make. Point of order, Mr. Geraint Davis.
Point of order. Her Majesty the Queen thought she had 5 weeks to write her Queen's speech, but then she was just given a few days, and she's waiting intently to know what the response of the House is on the Queen's speech. But instead, the Leader of the House has put down a motion which is basically a copycat of the motion on Saturday, in breach of Erskine May, and predictably, I've got to say, Mr. Speaker, you ruled it out of order. Isn't this a discourtesy to Her Majesty, and reason that the Leader should reconsider his position for his own incompetence?
Well, I'm very grateful to the honourable gentleman, but I don't think we should get ahead of ourselves. I certainly am not accusing the Leader of discourtesy. I'm not doing so at all. In fact, I celebrated his unfailing courtesy to me, and I think he will acknowledge mine to him. We are going to hear from the Leader of the House with the business statement, and if the honourable gentleman wants to question the Leader of the House on that business statement and to express his indignation, I very much doubt any force on earth will stop him doing so. If that exhausts the appetite for now of colleagues to raise points of order, and I'm very grateful to colleagues for what they've said and for the courtesy with which they've expressed themselves, whether they agree with my ruling or not. We come now to the first of our urgent questions. Urgent question, the Leader of the Opposition, Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask an urgent question, namely to ask the Prime Minister to make a statement on the publication of the European Union Withdrawal Agreement Bill and his letter of the 19th of October to the European Council seeking an extension to the period provided under Article 50.
The Secretary of State for exiting the European Union, Secretary Stephen Barclay.
Mr. Speaker, notice of the Withdrawal Agreement Bill was given to the House on Saturday. The bill was handed to the House yesterday as agreed with the House authorities. It will be introduced for first reading at the start of main business today. The publication of the Withdrawal Agreement Bill is therefore now being delayed by the Leader of the Opposition because he has tabled an urgent question requesting the publication of the Withdrawal Agreement Bill. Genius. The Withdrawal Agreement Bill could not, Mr. Speaker, be finalised until the European Council on Thursday the 17th of October, and then follows a historic meeting of this House on Saturday the 19th of October. It has then been introduced on the following sitting day, and as you said just a moment ago, Mr. Speaker, in response to a point of order, what could be shorter than the next sitting day? The sooner this urgent question and the next urgent question are concluded, the sooner it will be available to members. In respect to the Prime Minister's letter to President Tusk of the 19th of October, this was sent in compliance with Section 1 of the Benn Act. The President of the European Council has accepted the request as valid and indicated he is considering it and consulting with Member States.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do admire the Secretary of State for keeping a straight face while he gave that answer. And I'm very grateful to this. I'm very grateful to this urgent question being granted, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister has not deigned to grace us with his presence today, but I'm reassured, Mr. Speaker, that despite his pledge, he is not to be found anywhere in a ditch. I would, however, like to welcome the fact that the Prime Minister has sent a letter over the weekend to the EU President Donald Tusk to comply with the EU Withdrawal No. 2 Act. Mr. Speaker, as we've come to expect with this Prime Minister, this has been done with posturing and attempts to distract. But despite having told the British public over and over again he would never do it, the letter has, in fact, been sent. The request is not only legally necessary and prevents us crashing out of the EU with no deal, but the extension allows this House the space to scrutinise the Prime Minister's Brexit deal. I want to pay tribute to all those members who have worked hard to ensure a no-deal Brexit is ruled out, and I will continue to work across the House to ensure that this continues to be the case. Mr. Speaker, the European Commission has confirmed today that Brussels is now considering the terms of an extension. Can the Secretary of State tell the House when he expects any extension to be granted? And can he categorically rule out the absolutely ridiculous reports yesterday that Conservative MPs are trying to amend the law to jail members of Parliament alleged to have colluded with foreign powers? Does he, like me, fear that for the honourable member for Shrewsbury and Atcham, who is telling everyone who will listen that he is trying to collude with the Polish and Hungarian governments to veto any possibility of Article 50 extensions? Mr. Speaker, this type of nonsense is doing nobody any good at all. If the Prime Minister wants to get his deal through, he should bring forward the withdrawal agreement bill for scrutiny. Will he also bring forward an economic impact assessment?
Yes, that would be good.
Which has so far not seen the light of day.